involved.
It's a lovely good evening, dear viewer. Welcome to the Thursday edition of Millennium Tonight program. I'm your host, Given Banda. Thank you so much for finding time to join us on your Top Star Decoder channel 95, and we're streaming live on Facebook. It's Millennium TV Zambia. Now, corruption and governance is a very critical issue in any country, and prior to the 2021 general elections, the UPND had painted a picture that there was grand corruption in the Patriotic Front regime. Tonight on the program, we discuss corruption and governance, and my guest tonight is Honorable Richwell Siamunene, who is former Defense Minister. Honorable, it's a pleasure to host you. Good evening.
Thank you very much, and good evening, viewers.
All right, Honorable, quite a number of issues to touch on, but like I mentioned in my preamble, we'll be touching on corruption. First of all, I'd like to get your view on the corruption fight currently in the country. But first of all, before you can give us your picture on the corruption fight in the country, what impact do you think corruption has on governance and development?
Thank you very much. You see, corruption is a cancer in terms of economic and social development. Any nation whose corruption index is high, there will be less development. So, then coming from that premise, then corruption must be fought at all levels in order to get to the level where the country wants to be. So any country that is corrupt, there is retardation in terms of economic and social development, because resources will not be utilized properly, equitably, because certain individuals have taken advantage of.
Like I mentioned in my preamble, the UPND had painted a picture that there was grand corruption in the previous regime. Do you think they put enough measures? Or before we can even talk about the measures, how do you think they fared with regards to the corruption fight?
You see, in my view, to fight corruption, you should deal with institutions. If the institutions that were mandated and the laws governing those institutions are still the same, corruption will be the same. There's nothing that will happen unless there's a deliberate policy to strengthen our laws and strengthen the institutions that are mandated, such as Anti-Corruption Commission, drug enforcement, and other law enforcement agencies. If these are able to operate independent of the ruling party, at that stage now, that's when you will say corruption will be fought. Because corruption is not only the past regimes, the current regimes, and those and the future. So you must put laws and rules that are going to deter would be corrupt individuals. But are we changed any system now? I haven't seen any system that has been changed so far. And that gives you an indication that what we saw in the previous, if indeed there was corruption in the previous regime, even now it's there. Because the system is still the same. We are operating under the same system. So to deal with corruption, you have to change the system and put the system that will be able to safeguard those who want to be corrupt. I think that is my view.
Do you agree with sentiments that law enforcement agencies currently are under siege and compromised?
They are compromised in the sense that the appointing authority is still the ruling party. The ruling party has the influence in who should lead those institutions that are mandated to that. So they still have. So you can't fight the appointing authority. It's very difficult. Those guys, they may be professional in their man, but because of not dealing with the appointing authority, then you find that they are biased towards that appointing authority. That is nature. If the president appoints me, who do you think I'll be? Am I going to fight the president? Even when I know that this decision that the president has made, but if I do this, what do they? So he wants to check where in which the appointing authority direction, where they is facing. That's the direction that you are going to face. And that is what is happening right now. In my view, the system has not changed. And since the system has not changed, there's nothing that will change. Individuals will still take advantage of the porousness of the system and get into corruption.
We've heard the president call out corruption, condemn corruption. Mostly in his discourse, we've heard him talk about how this government is committed to fighting past, present, and future corruption. When somebody like the head of state calls out corruption, doesn't that show that this government is committed to fight this very bad vice?
You know, yes, the president can pronounce something. Okay? He himself maybe he doesn't want corruption and whatever. But has the system changed? If the pronouncements must correlate with the system change. Okay? That, okay, in order to deal with the corruption, he may dislike corruption, quite all right. We don't dispute that. That is in his mind. But it must go further by making those institutions that are fighting corruption, that are mandated under our constitution, they must be free to do their duties and discharge their duties independent. And that is the only way we are going to see a meaningful move or reduction in terms of corruption. Other than that, my view is that we'll still have the same problem that we faced over the years. You know, I always say that when during the MMD regime, MMD was removed from power because those who were in the opposition pointed out certain corrupt activities that were being promulgated that time, okay, that were being committed at that time. And because of that, the people of Zambia said, no, I think these who are in the opposition are right. There is too much corruption here. And then we must end their rule. And it ended. Okay? Now PF came in. And also the same, as you have stated, you said UPND came under the platform of fighting corruption. Now, the system that was there in MMD, it operated in PF, okay, and it's operating right now. So there are no major changes that we have seen in terms of operatives. That will give you an indication that individuals will still find a way to get into corruption, because the corruption is done by individuals, and individuals and those who are not operating under certain rules and regulations, and those regulations, the implementation is done by individuals. To implement that, to find that Siamunene is corrupt, there must be a policeman, there must be anti-corruption commission. Now, to come to me and identify that this is what, sometimes you have to seek authority from, if you are a minister, you seek authority from the head of state. What if the head of state, no, leave my minister? What will happen? So you will be sinning yourself and so on and so forth. So that is why we are saying, look, in terms of those institutions that are mandated, okay, once they have been appointed, their lot now is not to the president. Their loyalty now is not to the minister. Their loyalty is to the constitution. And the constitution is the one that should fire them. Okay? Not an individual can wake up in the morning and say, look, I'm dismissing this one, I'm dismissing this one. So those who come into occupy that office after that dismissal, they will say, my friend was fired or dismissed in a very unclear circumstance. So if I don't operate, I don't heed to these instructions, I may also be fired. So you find that they are constrained in which how far they can go in dealing with corrupt individuals. Because corrupt individuals, they are not only from the former regime, they are also in the current. Okay? One can be corrupt in the current. And are they given enough latitude, those who are given that mandate to implement that? Are they given enough? The answer is no. It's still the same laws, the same guidelines, the same thing that were before. And that is my view.
Speaking of the current, we saw what happened with former Foreign Affairs Minister, Honorable Stanley Kakubo. We saw him later resigning, but many had called for the president to fire him when there were those speculations about him being involved in corrupt practices. What did you make of that particular issue?
Well, that I don't know what judgment was made by him not firing, and for me, it is better that's why I'm calling for independent organizations. Independent organizations should have written a letter to the president that when we have done our homework and we have found that this particular individual had committed an offense of this kind, and our recommendation is for him to be dropped from that position to pave way for further investigation. Okay? So if that recommendation is done, and then that one is part of the constitution, then the president will have no way out not to fire that person, because he is also going to be checked by the constitution that, look, if I don't take this decision, which I'm required by the constitution, then I'll be violating the constitution. And when I violate the constitution, that means that the Zambian people will summon me. Okay? And so they will call me and say, look, we are not following the constitution. The constitution says you should have taken this action, and you did not take this action because either Siamunene is your brother or is your friend or what. You did not take. So under the constitution, there is no friend, there is no relative, there is no son, there is no what. Every individual who commits an offense must be liable to prosecution. I think that is my view. The president, the vice president, the ministers must operate under certain guidelines, under certain statutes, so much so that they are within that premise or within that ambit. But if they go beyond, there must be a way how to say, look, the constitution has been violated. I think our system, it goes back to our systems. Our system, our governance system, are not perfect enough to give that atmosphere.
Well, why you feel that way? At the beginning of the year, Honorable, we saw Transparency International Zambia issue their report on corruption index, and their report indicates that Zambia is doing well with the corruption fight. What do you make of this report by TIZ?
Well, you see, these reports sometimes they are done by, of course, individuals. They are done by individuals here, and they should have stated that under these changes that we've made, the corruption has gone down. Because right now, if you want to see that there's still corrupt activities, you will see how certain things are being done and results are being manifested, because institutions are not the one ruling us. We are ruled by men and women of their decisions. Of course, they need to make decisions when they are in governance, in power. Of course, certain decisions, but those decisions must be based on a prescribed set of rules and regulations. So, to me, I still stand that corruption was there and corruption is here because certain fundamentals have not been addressed. Until then, when we address those fundamentals, unless there is institutions that hinges on good governance, that hinges on corruption, they are given the right latitude to make their own independent move, their own independent decisions as regards whether to prosecute Siamunene even when he is a minister. I think that is the way. And then recommend to those in power and say, you must make this decision because we have found that there was a grave error or a mistake which was made by this particular individual, and make this action. And we have seen that no, it is entirely up to, it's not only from this the current government, even the previous government. We saw those things. There are certain ministers, certain colleagues who were cited corruption, and actions were not taken almost immediately because it was just the preserve of the head of state. He may decide either to fire or not to fire. And that's not, in a modern democracy, that's not the way we are supposed to proceed.
What picture does this then paint? Because when you talk about, these corruption allegations and issues, we've seen that, yes, the UPND alleged that there was grand corruption, grand theft happening previously, but we haven't seen a lot of prosecutions. What picture does this then paint?
No, if we have not seen that and then somebody says this is what happened and there was, it means that it will appear as though, I will, for lack of better word, say, let him forgive me, I will say this. It's like, the way you have said, it will appear as though there is a thief chasing another thief. Okay? Are you getting me? If I'm a thief and I'm chasing another thief, the moment I catch that, it's as though I will also run with the same thing, that the same television set that I've been run with it. So that is unless we get to a level whereby we are open in our mind and say, look, we are coming here with open hands.
Are you then insinuating that this government is also corrupt?
I have said that the system, there are individuals, there may be individuals that are corrupt. Because the corruption is done by individuals. There is no government which you say, let us be corrupt. No. It's done by individuals. In any system where there are loopholes, where it is porous, individuals will always find a way how they can amass wealth for themselves. Okay? Not for the common good. Okay? So, there are individuals. There were individuals. And that is what I'm stating. I cannot blindly say, no, this government is too corrupt. But in any government, even in this one, there are corrupt individuals
but
that may be involved in corruption. So, because the system has not been changed, and they will find, and you have heard even if you do an assessment, you do evaluation and get to individuals, the time when they were not in government and the time that are in government, you will see some difference in terms of amassing wealth. You will see different. Even those who were there.
Perhaps this government can be given a pat on the back. Perhaps when we look at issues like a former Luapula province minister, issues to do with Sujilite, we saw him being fired after he was implicated in the case. Isn't that a plus?
Then why is the Sujilite? That he was implicated. Where is it? You, a journalist, did you go and film that where it is? I'm asking you.
No, I'm here to ask you the questions.
So that's the issue. That is the issue. So it gives. I want the people to conclude on themselves and say, look, this is, yes, there was this. Then where is Where is it?
What is your take on the establishment of the Economic Crimes Court and Fast Track Court with dealing with cases within 5 months?
That's a good move. That's a good move. Corruption must be dealt with almost immediately, so that those who want to be, the would-be offenders may be deterred. Say, look, there's the system is very tight now that corruption, suspected cases of corruption can be dealt with within a short period of time. Because if you take more years, it will dilute its purpose. But
is 5 months sufficient to conclude complicated cases?
It's enough, more than enough. You can even take three months, provided the judiciary is given the right manpower. Yeah, they can even deal with it. If you are given a specific judge, say, look, can you deal with this matter within this period? And they can do it even within 1 month or 2 months. It's not difficult, because you see, before you take somebody to court, I believe that there must be some underground movement that has been made by those institutions that are mandated that, look, we have established, we have established evidence here that may lead us winning the case because of this and this and this. Now, based on that, it means that there are already evidence that have been established before the matter is taken to court. Okay? There must be evidence. So if there are already evidence, then it may not take even long before you do that. And because we are not searching, because there are already institutions that are mandated to take those action before the matter is proceeded to prosecution.
Let's get your view on calls by some stakeholders that the president should declare his assets as a way of leading by example as someone who intends to fight corruption. The president has, however, remained tight-lipped on the issue.
Well, in my view, when you take up a public office, of course, for Christ's sake, safeguard your properties from, because these properties that we have private, they are owned by the family. The family must take none, so that anyone in the near future may not allege that there was this. It is also for my personal advantage that I should do that, so that anyone who will come in the near, because this government, you get in and you go out. So you want also those, your properties, your personal private properties are safeguarded, because you are in the public office. Everyone is now, somebody may suspect that, you know, there's this and this, and meanwhile, you obtain those properties. Because I, for example, I know the president, the businessman. He accumulated a number of properties before getting into that position. I know that. I'm very much aware. I know. So, anyone in the near future, those who don't know him, may speculate, you understand. Now, to avoid the speculation, it is just imperative that you do that. But that is his personal decision not to do that. In my view, I, for one, would be a good thing to do that, because we don't want somebody to arrange in the near future and say, look, this and this and this and this. Meanwhile, he had them already. I know that. I'm aware of those. It may work to my advantage if I do that. So anyway, that is a personal decision, and he has his own wisdom. He looks at it in two different angles. But if I'm talking about myself, yeah.
Let's get your view on the forfeiture of properties, assets, and monies. Currently, we're hearing of former KCM liquidator Milingo Lungu forfeiting $24 million. Others have described this as a significant achievement in combating corruption. Do you share the same views?
Well, it's in terms of forfeiting that amount. It's a huge amount, of course. Huge amount. It's a good move. Okay? It's a good move. But in again, it comes back. how did that amount of money land, huge amount of money land in somebody's account, somebody's hand, without the system at that time detecting that? Okay? That again comes, I find it very unreasonable really to discover that at that time when there was no detection from our own men and women who are mandated to deter element of wrongdoing. Okay? To stop, because it's about to, it's about also deterring, stopping a crime. Okay? Preventing a crime from happening is the best way, as opposed to allow it to happen. Meanwhile, you have already lost, you have lost, maybe there is death, and that's when you are fighting the criminal. No, I think there must be a system. That's why I keep on coming. There must be a system to guard those occurrences, that they should not occur. Imagine if that money was pumped somewhere within the economy. It would have moved the economy to another level, in my view. So, having found it now, and now Zambia has lost already. Okay? So that's the reason why I'm requesting, I'm humbly requesting this government that, look, since they are discovering things that are diabolic in nature, that are not pleasing in nature, why can't we now and say, okay, since we have found this, we want to change the system in order for these occurrences that we have seen, so that they do not occur in themselves. Because we are doing this on behalf of the Zambian people. So meaning that our laws, our systems, they are not good enough to deter such occurrences, such that an individual can have that kind of money, and that money, of course, if you have to conclude, it was taken from the Zambian people or the economy. So what is it that there are rules now that we have put that in this health system now, there are no such individuals that are benefiting in that order?
Would you say the same about the other issue involving former President Edgar Lungu's daughter Chieso forfeiting property worth 9 million kwacha following an order from the Economic and Financial Crimes Court? We've heard a lot of people make allegations and speculate that whenever, if a family member of the former president is summoned by these law enforcement agencies, they've described it as a witch hunt and persecution. What is your take?
Well, there are issues for and against. Okay? In order for us to avoid witch hunt, why can't we put a system that are going to deter those things? Those things could have happened, yes, because there is a porousness in somewhere things are not right. Because I've said before, and that the law that requires those getting into leadership to declare everything that they have. In the previous regime, when we read about the history during Kaunda or UNIP days, there was a system that leaders, which they called leadership code, such that leaders, before they get into public life, okay, from private to public, since you are going to deal with public affairs, you are going to deal with things that are commonality in nature, things that are common to all, and you are covering other people's life, then you have got to declare how much you are worth. Okay? And then after you have left office, you must also declare how much you are worth right now. If there is that code of conduct, now, then it will be good enough to make sure that those who are getting into leadership, there will be no suspicions whatsoever. The Zambian people will not say somebody's. There are people who are accused of stealing when they are not stealing. You know that. Okay? Obviously, there are people who are really stealing whom we don't know that they have stolen. There are people who are quiet now. They have gone under, but they have amassed wealth. Because they have not come out, they have not stated, maybe because they don't believe, they don't come from the first family. Those from the first family, they are on the spotlight. You understand? Now, it is very easy. But what about those who are not? Because there is some other people who could have been involved, okay? Who have even more than what the daughter and the sons of former president, okay? Who may have amassed more than, okay? And then they are not because of the system, because those are on the spotlight. And so what I'm saying is I will still come back to the point. I am an advocate for, if you are finding things happen in that magnitude where you have 24 million, not even kwacha, dollars, isn't it? Is it dollar or kwacha?
Dollars.
Dollars. And if you multiply in our own currency, it is a huge amount. So that tells you a story. There is a story behind that, which requires that the people of this country must realize and say, no, wait a minute. How do we avoid such occurrence so that this money belongs to the Zambian people is not amassed, is not misused by those whom we give the responsibility to run our affairs? I think that is where the Zambian people should reach now at this stage, to make sure that they look at all the laws that govern these institutions that are given that the mandate to guard against such issues. So that means that these institutions, they are not strong enough. If they were enough, they could have detected that before. Maybe because of the influence from those who are in leadership, influence those who are in leadership now, and we will only discover now for those who are in leadership after they have left leadership. That's when we will discover that these things were happening. I think that's the story that I'm giving, that there must be somewhere things are not right.
But are the Zambian people the ones responsible to make these institutions autonomous, Honorable?
Yes. Yes, the Zambian people. They are responded through parliament, of course, where I was a member. Yeah. Because the only problem that we have right now, which we have realized, that when you are in parliament, when you belong to the ruling party, there is so much loyalty to a political party or to the head of state than to the country. Okay? So that issue must be dealt with, so much so that people are able to be given. The law must also provide the people that those who are whistleblowers, the protection. If you are a minister and perhaps you do not believe in certain things that are being done, it will be very difficult for you to come out in the open and say this is wrong. Because the moment you do that, you are fired immediately. But that does not stop one from giving such information. But the whole issue lies that in the institutions is to protect you at a time when the decision is made in that nature. So if you raise an alarm, do you have the protection? You'll be open now. You'll be open to ridicule. Sometimes even law enforcement agencies will be directed to say, go and search his house. Go and do this, go and do this, go and do this. Okay? Now, in order for you to avoid that, you would just, let me just keep quiet to avoid the problems. Maybe they will they will now call ZRA and visit my business. Maybe they will, if I have a mining license, they will cancel my mining license. So you want to protect your individual properties.
Then what does that say about you politicians, Honorable? Because there is a saying that there are no morals in politics. So if you as a politician, or if you as a member of parliament or a minister has seen that there are grey areas happening in government and just scared to call them out, then that simply shows that you have no morals. But we have examples. Former Foreign Affairs Minister Harry Kalava did resign from his position after he noticed that there were things that were happening in the patriotic front that he did not agree with. But then what does this say about others?
Where is he now? Where is he now?
Well, he's in opposition, obviously.
With who? The people that was calling. Oh, these are things that you see. You see, I may say that because I want a certain position, and because I want to be the president, because I want to be what I want to. But later on, again, you find yourself in that group. So it's better to say what you are stating here. You see, to say that there are no morals in politics, I think is the wrong thing. You see, politics is not only done in Zambia. There is politics in Russia. There is politics in China. There is politics in Singapore. There is politics in America. There is politics in Great Britain, and politics everywhere in Germany. There are politicians there. Okay? But their institutions are strong enough. The president of American president will not just come out in the morning and say, I'm doing this for this particular individual. He has to be told to say, you are already guided in how you can fire this one. There is a guideline that this, you can only fire or you can only dismiss an erring officer under these conditions, or maybe you are going to recommend because you have seen you yourself, and then that organization must agree with you. A system, they are the one operating. There is politics everywhere. But the politics which we have in Africa is that the individuals, they have more powers to even overrule the constitution.
But if you, Honorable, you are clean and you have no bad record, what would stop you from being a whistleblower or pointing out a wrong if you are even in the ruling government? What would stop you?
What I'm saying is this. The law itself must protect the whistleblowers. That's what I'm saying. Are you getting me? There must be a law which deliberately protects those who are whistleblowers. Okay? You can say something, you as a journalist today. Okay? We have seen this in the previous MMG, we have seen in the PF, we are seeing now. Sometimes to shatter you up, they will visit you and say, close him up. Or tomorrow you'll be in the cells. So these are things that we are saying. There must be a protection for those who are whistleblowers. Yes, you may go and say certain things, but do you have the protection? Okay? Do you have the protection? The answer is no. So how do we make sure that we govern ourselves correctly where it benefits every Zambian? We must have such institutions that are mandated so that people will be able to know, I cannot instruct the police to go and arrest Mr. Piri or whoever, because I'll have to pass through certain guidelines. If I do that and I'm not able to prove that this person indeed was involved in this, then the law must turn to the one who has done that. You get what I'm saying? So it must be a way. But arbitrary politician or policeman who arrest Mr. Piri and the matter will die just like that, without having said, look, this person was, his human rights were violated by the conduct of the police. And this is the conduct of the police. Instead of the police conducted himself outside the prescribed guideline. So how do we do? let this policeman, since he has been found guilty, let him be fired or dismissed. So the law must provide the dismissal of the policeman, not necessarily a politician or whoever. So that way, people will be operating professionally because they are not being instructed by individuals, those who are in government. They are instructed by statutes. And their decisions are always on that, in that order of things.
Let's look at other issues, Honorable. Issues to do with drought. The president addressed the nation and revealed that 9.8 million Zambians are severely affected by the drought. What is your take on this issue?
Well, I've said this, yes, we don't dispute the fact that the president mentioned that there's such a number of people are affected by drought. It's a well-known thing that they are affected by drought, and they need immediate things for them to have a good living. And it's a good thing, but going forward, I will still state that we really need to do things different. Okay? I can assure you, drought will never stop. We will always have drought at a certain point within those who will live more years. They will experience in Zambia more droughts that are still coming. Okay? Because those who have lived, who have experienced, like myself, I've seen a drought. I think that was 1984, 1983. We say 1990 there was one, and now we have one in 2020. So basically, we have had the drought in the past. Did we put mitigation measures to avert such a crisis? The answer is no. Because we are run by individuals, not the system. If there was a plan, okay, a national plan that cannot be altered by any individual, by any government, we have a guide how we are going to live as people. Okay? We have a plan that this is how we are going to live. This is how we are going to mitigate. This is what. So what that means, if this, I'll give you an example that when I was at that time, there was drought, isn't it? There was a winter maize project that was started. If that was a part of plan for this nation, so those who came after Mwanawasa could have continued with that program. All successful governments would have done in order to make that program succeed up to its conclusion, because it's a national issue. Now, those who came after Mwanawasa thought that whatever Mwanawasa did, whatever plan, it was not right. They started doing their own thing. And maybe it died. Meanwhile, it's a cost to the country. Because that program, for it to be initiated, there was some money that was pumped in that program. And then somebody else comes and says, it doesn't do the program. Okay? And then we are where we are today, because there was no continuation. So, as long as we continue in this trajectory, we will still be facing the same problem. We'll be crying every day, drought, drought, drought. Eh? We should have not talked about drought now, right? Really, in this era, drought. There are countries that can even spend 2 years or so without rainfall. Those in the desert. Sometimes it doesn't even, but they'll get water. Okay? They have countries that have turned the desert into Greenland. Okay? There are other countries that have turned that has reclaimed the land from the sea, and they are growing crops now. So there are these things. I think that is where because those countries, they have a national plan, they have a national program. That program, it was designed by or the expert in that particular country, and that they have been given to government, that these issues cannot be tempered by anyone who comes in government. The only thing that he can do is to continue with it. any violation, any departure from that program, then it is a violation of the interests of the Zambian people.
The drought has brought about many challenges, among them also being load shedding. And we've seen a lot of critics, a lot of, social media posts flying around, retrieving posts that were made by President Hakainde Hichilema when he was in opposition, when he condemned the previous government when they attributed the drought to the low water levels and the drought. What is your take on the load shedding that the country is currently experiencing?
Well, the load shedding itself is not a good thing. It deters progress because the country will not progress economically, because those businesses that depend on power, they will not be able to produce the goods and services that they needed to produce at any time, which are critical to the development of any nation. So, the move when the UPND was in opposition, tried to tackle load shedding, was a good move. I think that's the first thing that they could have done and say, look, in order to have national development, as the name implies, what issues are we tackling? The electricity aspect was one which they should have put their mind on first. Then to have it at this stage, it will make them not realize their live according to their name, national development or economic development, because load shedding has taken its toll now, and those will not be able to do things in the manner that they desired to do. So, in that respect, I think we cannot talk about the climatic conditions. Not talk about conditions of that nature will be there. It requires a human mind to change the conditions. Conditions of that nature, drought will always be there, and the other issues will always be there. They are part of human development. Okay, so they want man to develop other ways how to live. So it is those things that are put by God himself, and he knows that man can do better, can do. There is nothing that is insurmountable in the eyes of God, and the eyes of God and man are one, and so God knows that man can manage to navigate through those challenges.
But what are the immediate solutions, Honorable, to the load shedding that the country is currently facing?
You are saying?
What are the immediate solutions to the load shedding?
The immediate solution to this current is to have the way they have declared the importation of solar equipment and those any facility that is in the generation of electricity, those diesel engines and which can produce electricity, as well as solar facilities, that those must be made available to every Zambian at an affordable price. Now, of course, there's an issue that the president has done, which is a good move, of course, to have the importation of solar system zero rated. It's a good move, but there is more that we can do in order for the ordinary Zambian to benefit, because there are dealers out there who wants to amass profit out of that, take advantage of the situation and reduce, and they will reduce. They will not reduce the prices, and we have a cry now that despite the government making this move, but the dealers themselves, they have not reduced it significantly so that to afford the Zambian. I think what they should have done was perhaps not to leave it open like that, maybe to identify certain organizations right now because it's critical. Identify them. Look, you are suppliers of this particular commodity and so on and so forth. So can you bring this and reduce it to this level? Maybe to be monitored by the government on that scale. Maybe it will benefit the Zambian. But because the move is quite good and it's very good, it's the way to go. But you have independent dealers who wants to amass profit, who will not regard as saying that it must benefit all. The way of government is to ease the living of the Zambian people. But individuals, those who are running those businesses, who are bringing solar, may not have that same desire, may do it different. So the only thing that they can do is to identify maybe perhaps those who are going to be dealing with those facilities or equipment that are to produce electricity, so much so that the government is able to monitor them and how what price they are giving to the people. Yeah. Another governance issue I would like us to look at before we conclude, Honorable, is the decisions that have been made around the mining sector, the biggest one being that of Mopani. What is your take on this deal that was struck by government, bringing an equity partner, IRH, from Dubai? Well, bringing, resuscitating the mine and so on and so forth is the same thing that we are talking about now. You are talking about somebody who was heading, having 24 million, and then on the other vein, you are told, no, you have no capacity to run the mine. But because that mine was being run by Zambian, and those people that were mandated to run, they found themselves in that kind of thing, and there was money, and there is money. So basically, the issue is that, for me, really, which I'm convinced in my mind that is achievable, I will be comfortable in this country if there is deliberate policy, deliberate move to take ownership of our mineral wealth. Okay? When I'm talking about taking ownership of our mineral wealth, is that the Zambian people, the Zambian people that are found within this perimeter of the country called Zambia must be given the opportunity to run the mine, to run our own affairs. We know that we are capable. Okay? We are very much capable given the right environment. I think government should do more in giving the Zambian the opportunity to own our mineral wealth, because once these mineral wealth are owned by you and other people, whatever profit that you get, mining, of course, I know that is capital intensive. It requires big capital investments in terms of getting the equipment and machinery that to run the mine. Yes, we know that, but the profit as well is huge. And most of these companies that are coming here, they don't even come with that money. Sometimes the money is in pledges. Okay? It was in the international media where somebody says, no, actually, I did not even pay that amount up front. I had to run the mine and then get that, and that's when I paid. So which means they paid from the sales of the same copper that we have. So I think we need to reach a stage where we are going to say, enough is enough. Let the Zambian given the opportunity, okay, to answer your question. For me, I'm not comfortable that somebody from outside the country has come in to take majority shares. Okay? Since one has taken the majority shares, and even the knowing how the company operates, company governance and the other, it means that the decision-making process will be done by the majority shares holder. Since the decision will be made by majority shares, so the benefit of the Zambians will be determined by management. They will decide, they can decide what cost are attached to this. And if they want, they can even escalate the cost so much so that you as a shareholder, your dividend will not come within 5 years, or it will come after 10 years. Because certain people in the international community, certain international organizations, the same in those countries, they own the supplier. They are the supplier of those equipment. Okay? You own the mine here, you are the same, you have a sister company or who are the supplier of the equipment. And they will escalate the price as so as we are bought so much, so that they factor it in your cash flow or focus. And then your balance sheet after the end of the day will be zero. And then the declaration of dividend will not be there. And then what have you benefited, you who own 41 or 49%? What have you benefited in the process? Zero.
While others are saying this is a good deal, the conversation again has been, there was need for this issue to be passed or tabled in Parliament, but we've heard Attorney General Mililo Kabesha say the transaction does not violate Article 210 of the Constitution and has advised the public to be guided by facts and not baseless arguments. What's your view?
No, there's the issue. I'm told the matter, somebody has proposed that wants to take the matter. I don't know whether it has been taken by now to court. And the issue is that it's a constitutional matter. A constitutional matter is that there are two arguments. And then the truth will come out of the court. So, you see, people can argue. I've never seen somebody who belongs to government, even when I was in government, to argue against their own. They will always want to find ways and means how to defend the decision of those in government. I think that's the way I've learned this. The short time I was in government, I've never seen even the previous regimes, Attorney General arguing against the decision that have been made. We end up even go to court and say, look, the matter is this, and they don't find a way out. They are just like a lawyer. A lawyer will argue, even when you have killed, will still argue to find a loophole to safeguard the client. So basically, the truth must remain that the benefit for any decision that you make as a government, those who are given the responsibility to make decisions. I think the central point for me is to say, what benefit is it going to accrue to the Zambian people or to the economy? Because when the benefit is accrued to the economy, it means that everyone has benefited. If the decision that the Zambian people are running the mines and so on, and if the government is running the mine, and that government does not mean that it cannot run the mines. It can run the mine. We have seen governments somewhere else, even where we will go to these developed countries. They take total ownership of their own mineral wealth. Okay? Because they have control of their mineral wealth, and their currency is very strong. Because the currency goes with what you have to sell. Okay? If you have something of value, what you are producing in that country, it means that your currency will also be strong. If today you declare that Zambia has so much reserves of copper, and this copper is owned by government, and government is directly connected to the sale, and you have a situation whereby there is such gold reserves that the government has, and this government is directly involved in the sales of gold and other precious metals and precious stones. Then automatically, I'm telling you the truth. This is the truth. Automatically, our currency, our kwacha will appreciate based on those, based on the reserve, based on what we have as a country.
But when you look at what is happening in the mines, Honorable, the UPND said they have an ambitious plan of producing over 3 million metric tons of copper. Do you see this happening in the next 10 years?
No. Achieving that, it can be achieved. But I don't know, it can be achieved because Zambia has enough reserves. But the question still stands that, are we the owners of that, the 3 million? Are we the owners? Because if they are private, it is privately owned, or the selling of that copper or whatever mineral is in the private hands, and they have the say where they can sell the copper and how they can sell the copper. And so it means that the benefit for the country will still be minimal, will be insignificant, such that beneficiation will be at that lower levels, such that you and me and the other people will not see the effect, okay, of that. Producing is one thing, but beneficiation is another to the Zambian people. You understand? It's another. You can say, yes, we produce. Yes, we can produce. We are capable of producing more than actually even what the number that you have said. But impact itself, we have been producing copper for a long time as a country. Okay? At the level where we are producing, have we seen some changes in the other sectors? The answer is no. Why? Where is the problem? The problem is that because it is being done by private entities who have a say at what level. Sometimes you may say that we will produce that kind of thing. If those owners feel that the profit margins have been eroded by way of policies that the government has instituted, they can reduce the production. They can decide, no, we're not producing, or they can say, no, the mine is flooded. Or they can give other lame excuses because you are not the one government running.
All right.
If you are the one running government, then you are sure that you have that. But if you have another one, then it becomes a problem to achieve that goal.
Honorable, we end here due to time. Thank you so much for making it to tonight's edition of Millennium Tonight.
Thank you very much for having invited me. I treasure this time.
All right. That's our show for tonight. We were discussing corruption and governance. I've been your host, Given Banda. We were hosting former Defense Minister Honorable Richwell Siamunene. Until tomorrow, Friday, it's good night and keep watching Millennium TV.